The Financial Survival Network, helping you survive and thrive in the new economy. For a free financial survival toolkit and newsletter, sign up at kerrylutz.com. KERRYLUTZ.com.
1490 WGCH. This is Kerry Lutz. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. All right, we've got Chris Duane back on the line. We haven't talked to him in a few weeks. He has been working on a series, The Greatest Truth Never Told. So, Chris, what's the truth and why weren't we told?
Well, the greatest truth is, Kerry, that humanity has been enslaved consistently over and over again by a very small class, and that we can be free the moment we wish to be. And, when I did all my studies and put all this information together to help me understand where this world was, where we were going, and how we got here, I found that all this information is out there, and it's just not put into one place where you can easily digest the fact that we are slaves. And I think we have 27 million people on antidepressants. We have obesity. We have just a society that's in complete distress. And so much of what we see as a physical or mental problems come from the fact that we cannot deal with that we're not progressing and that we have no future and that we're not doing things that resonate with ourselves. And the first step of getting over any problem is recognizing it. So in my effort to awaken myself, I put together a vast amount of information, which culminated into this project called the Sons of Liberty Academy. Mm-hmm. And it's a huge project. I mean, it's 48 hours of video lessons, and a lot of people go, I can't watch that. Well, that's the culmination of 6 years worth of work. I would have loved to have sat down for 48 hours straight and done that. But it's all the information that I had learned, 240 books, tens of thousands of hours of internet and research and, all sorts of stuff. And I put it into the order of the wish in the way that I wish I had learned it. And what came out of the Sons of Liberty Academy has been awesome. I mean, we have 18,000 people that have, signed up or been through the academy. And, it's a great project, but, there's some limitations with it. Mainly that it is so big, and that, some of these videos, I have one video that's almost 10 hours long.
Wow.
It's difficult to do it. And it's not like, you'll watch most documentaries, Kerry, and, most 2-hour documentaries usually have one or two big thoughts, and they'll spend a half hour interviewing 12 other people about that one big thought, or that they'll keep rehashing the same things. It's, you get kind of one or two mental fireworks out of every good documentary out there. With the Academy, the way that I put it together, it's like mental fireworks almost every minute. I mean, I go over a lot of big ideas over, and, I put them in a way that I wish I had learned it. But now, with this Greatest Truth Never Told, I realized that there were some limitations in the presentation, the narrative, the production quality of the Sons of Liberty Academy that would restrict it from becoming more accepted. So I've taken all this energy that I put into the Sons of Liberty Academy, and I actually went even further down the rabbit hole, and I think I put together a very convincing narrative to help people understand that, yes, we are enslaved, and that while, we do have a very gloomy outlook, this can be turned around instantly with the right amount of knowledge.
Mm-hmm. And it's a question of getting the knowledge out there to the people,
absolutely,
which they've been deprived of all these years, right? Mm-hmm. All these generations and hundreds, if not thousands of years. So what's been the response to the course?
It's been very good. I mean, I just started putting them out, I think last week or the week before. And I think within the first day or so, I got 4,000 hits to the first one.
Really?
And again, they're all cut up into these 1 to 2 minute, small clips that are easily shareable with other people. So I didn't want to put together like this huge project again. And then people go, wow, I really liked when Chris talked about cognitive dissonance. But, you're not going to send a video to somebody and say, okay, fast forward it to hour, 12 and listen to this one part. This way, it's on YouTube. People can, share it and link it and do all that other fun stuff. And the idea is that it's focused on that one idea. It's not, trying to, explode people, because I tell you what, people, the sad thing is they can only concentrate on one thing for about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, we've devolved into a soundbite society. And if you give them too much, like sometimes even with these interviews, you give them too much, you get the eyes rolling the head and they're glossing over. They have that cognitive dissonance where their brain starts saying, I can't handle these new thoughts. It's too much. And the natural reaction for most people is, quite honestly, I don't want to know. I don't want to hear it. I can't deal with that. And that's what we're trying to get over, because it's that fighting, that brain, that's your soul saying, that's life. We need to hear this stuff. We need to think deep thoughts. We need to see the reality in order for us to move forward. So I hope these programs and the articles and the blogs and all this other stuff that we're doing does awaken, the masses of people.
Yeah, well, I think it's a process, and that's what I think age makes you realize, is that awakenings, whether individually or societal or generational, they don't take place in a day. Perhaps if the second coming came, if you believed in that, and Jesus materialized in front of every person on earth at once, you would have an immediate awakening, but there'd still be non-believers. But you know what I'm saying? Things progress according to a process of opening up, a process of awareness. And if you remember the book 1984, the guy is basically just one cog in the wheel, and one day he gets a piece of information which he can't process because it totally goes against everything that he's
outside of his paradigm.
Exactly. But it sparked a fire.
Yep.
In the case of 1984, it had a very unhappy ending for him. But maybe,
it's funny. It's funny, when I read 1984, I knew the concept. I've heard of it. I knew about Big Brother and all that other stuff.
Yeah, Big Sis is watching you.
Yep. But the funny thing is, as I'm reading this book, I'm like, wow, how's the happy ending going to happen? Like, because you're almost programmed to think that the good guy is always going to win, right. And that there's going to be some revelation. And I tell you what, reading it, it's like, oh God,
it's really depressing.
But man, what a absolute brilliant, forward-thinking. I highly recommend anybody to pop that book in there. It's a small book too.
Yeah,
but
book.
The concepts with, like, talk about newspeak. I had a comment on the blog where this guy says, I can't even begin to understand why I would want, or how I could become free. And that's what I wrote back to him. I said, our society has devolved so much so that we even lack the words to truly believe and understand what freedom really is. Because our freedom, we've been told that we're free. It's in 1984. I forget what the war is peace, and
peace is war, and
words, and that's what we've that's what we've got. That's what we've got. We think war is peace now.
Yeah, it's downright distressing.
Ignorance is strength. That was another one.
Yeah, ignorance is strength, right?
And that's what we've got. We've got a society that if you're ignorant, you're popular, you're a celebrity, you're something to aspire to. I mean, we look at the Kardashians and the Jersey Shore guys. I mean, you couldn't talk about a more vapid, ignorant, worthless, no value society that puts them on a pedestal. We look at the Greek societies. They used to put their philosophers and teachers up on a pedestal. We put the dumbest, most ignorant people up there.
Low lives. And it's funny that you say that. I remember Will Rogers, a famous comedian, and he used to say, "Don't worry about this economic situation we're in. Ignorance got us into it, and ignorance will get us out." And that's like the philosophy here. This mass ignorance, and then you tie that in with the dumbing down in the schools. I mean, when my kids tell me they like Jersey Shore, I want to I want to like destroy their televisions.
Yeah.
There's nothing good about that show. To me, it's depressing.
I get physically repulsed.
Totally. And there's nothing redeeming about those characters. And I'm sure a lot of it is, and most of it's playing to the cameras, but there's a core element of truth about who those people are. And the camera doesn't lie. So on to brighter topics. And you had a little get together with a number of your web buddies. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I've had hundreds, 200-300 email conversations, Skype conversations, phone conversations, meetings with people of all these really interesting, bright, people that I've met through the Don't Tread on Me blog. And guys like you and this guy Mustafa Cohen and all these people that are now, we have now I think 40 contributors for the Don't Tread on Me blog.
Really?
Oh yeah. And then there's hundreds of other people. Just in this new SilverShield report, I already have 160 people who have joined there. But I've had all these great conversations, and I'm like, wow, this is something I think is going to be very historically significant. Because we have a group who understands, on some level, what's going on with the monetary system. You mentioned before about the second coming of Christ, and all of a sudden there's awakening. We are going to have that event. It's maybe not going to be Christ soon, but the collapse of the god of the dollar and the almighty dollar is going to wake up people on a massive scale that would be equivalent to the second coming of Christ. Without a functioning dollar and the collapse of all the world's currencies and stocks and all the faith that humanity has put into this Ponzi scheme, when it collapses, all of humanity is going to have to come to an awakening. And while most of humanity is going to fall through the same 5 stages of awakening that we've gone through, they're going to be whipped out of denial, because they're going to come face to face with the consequences of their action. Then they're going to go into the anger phase, which is going to be 3 to 6 to 12 to 3 years worth of months and to years of anger and violence and war, because they cannot deal with this new reality. Then they'll go through the bargaining phase. Then they'll slip into depression, and then eventually, maybe another generation or so, they'll get out of it and go to the acceptance stage. But we have this group inside of our little community of people who have already gone through that stage, gone through that. We're way ahead of the curve of humanity. And we've seen that this mathematically inevitable event is coming. It's going to be the single largest event in human history. And we're aware and prepared for it. So I said, wow, this is, an amazing thing that we have going on here, because we have a group of very bright, intelligent, forward-thinking, caring individuals who have resonated with this message that we've been putting out there, who are ahead of the curve and who do want to do something, special. And even with silver, I tell people owning 1,000 ounces of silver is historically significant. You can go back throughout all of history. I was reading about kings of England who didn't have 1,000 ounces of silver. They had to use tally sticks for 600 years.
Sure.
And even if they did have the silver in their kingdom, they had expenses just like we do. Try running wars and kingdoms and all that other stuff. They were constantly in debt.
Don't forget the concubine expense. Yeah. That was substantial.
That cost a lot of money. But to think that somebody, average Joes can get 1,000 ounces of silver, which I value as 10,000 days of hard human labor in savings, is historically significant. Because I've mentioned over and over again, the average Roman soldier was paid, a denarius or a dime or a tenth of an ounce of silver for every day that they worked. And that was the same for, industrial workers in the 1900s, and even 2/3 of the world today. Yeah. So I said, wow, we got this group, which I know people have got a lot more than 1,000 ounces of silver, but there's a group that we have that are drawn to this message, who do have a significant amount of this real tangible wealth in the face of a collapse of a paper paradigm. And I think the most wonderful thing is that the people that do arrive at this buying physical silver and rid of all this, they are now putting into perspective their lives and what does have value. Because once you start not valuing fiat money, and once you stop not valuing the McMansion and the cars, and enslaving your kids to some college education that's probably not going to be worth anything, your life becomes a lot more simpler, but also more significant. You start valuing, your children and relationships and things that do matter and that make us human.
Right.
So I said, all right, we have an historically significant group. Let's get together. Let's just meet. So I put out there, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said, hey, why don't we just all come to Cleveland, because I'm in Cleveland now, and see who comes. So I sent this out there, and it's, without even any thought about it, it was on Halloween weekend, but I wanted to do it before the end of October. Halloween weekend with 2 weeks notice in Cleveland. It's not like this is a tourist attraction or that there's a lot of people living in the area. And I think we ended up with like 40 people that ended up coming to this event. And it was really an interesting event. I wish you could have been there, and I am going to do this again because I know that we can get more people with some more notice. But what a cool group of people. It was basically just me talking for 6 hours because obviously I can talk.
No, you're kidding me.
But yeah, it brought to realization out of the internet world into a real relationship world. All sorts of great things. I mean, we had every generation there. We had the millennials, the Generation X, the baby boomers there. We had a software developer. We had engineers. We had doctors, orthodontists, farmers, teachers. Young kids with just lots of vim and vigor in them. And inside this little room, we had a microcosm for a new community. And this community was people who resonated with the idea of, individual property rights and the Constitution and becoming aware and helping other people and moving forward positively in the face of something that's, scary. Having the world end is not a fun thing to think about. But, you start putting yourself inside and surrounding with people who do see things the way that you do. The world seems a lot brighter. I want to live in a world like that right now,
Yeah. Where men are really free and responsible for themselves, and where the expectations that they place upon themselves are far greater than any expectation that a government or any other authority would place upon yourself. And I think when you've gotten to that point, then you really are free, whether the society's free or not. On that note, we kind of have to take off now, but we're not going to let the time slide by like last time. We'll talk to you again next week, same time, same place.
Sounds good, Kerry.
All right, keep up the great work, Chris.
All right, take care.
Bye.